Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Finster. There she is. Hello, Finster. How are you? You're good? Yes, okay. We'll see how long she tolerates us. Here to talk about Repertoire, and by popular demand today, there you go, we are doing the Danse macabre by Saint-Saëns. Now, this is actually a wonderful piece to do a repertoire survey with because it's short. It's 6 minutes. I mean, all these repertoire talks that we've been doing have been of shorter works, but it's only between 6 and 7 minutes long. And because it's only between 6 and 7 minutes long, it's had a particularly illustrious recorded history going way back to the beginning of recorded time. And that's fun. We can do these comparisons. I don't usually spend here we go. I knew it. Quite often, when she stomps on the computer on her way out, she freezes the picture or does something. She turns off the volume. God knows what's going to happen afterwards. Anyway, I don't ordinarily get into historical recordings extensively because, well, I mean, I just think there are better modern recordings of things. But here's a case where you can really make comparisons, and they're fun to do. And so I've included a few historical recordings here as part of our selection of more than a dozen or so. Some people did it twice, so you get more bang for your buck. Now, the Danse macabre, I mean, just things that I listen for. It's such a beautiful work. It's wonderful. First of all, it was originally a song with orchestra. The words are totally stupid. It's horrible in its vocal verse. Zigga, zigga, zee, zigga, 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 zee. I don't know what it is. It's really baritone and orchestra. It's just awful. So we are not doing any vocals in this stuff. Not a bit. It's the orchestral tone poem, which caused a riot at its first performance because it used a xylophone, which was a big no-no instrument back in those days. I don't know why, but it was. Just like the English horn in Franck's Symphony in D minor caused a riot. I mean, everything in Paris causes a riot. They just like to riot. So that's what it is. But it was actually something of a controversial piece. It is beautifully scored, and it has so many wonderful details. And, details of orchestral color that I like to hear. Not just the xylophone. I mean, just at the very beginning, you've got soft suspended cymbal. It should be hit with a hard stick. It should be ting, ta 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 ting. Some people actually use suspended cymbals, which is fine, but you should hear them. There's also, soft bass drum underneath it. At the very opening of the thing, when the xylophone first comes in, the strings play col legno. Ta 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 clack, ta 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 clack, ta 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 clack. You got to hear these wonderful details that make it macabre. That's the whole point. That's the macabre bit. So you want to hear that. You want to hear luscious string playing, really luscious string playing, because it's a waltz. Do 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 you do 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 do. I mean, really, it's got to be fabulous. And finally, of course, you want to have a pretty nice climax that's exciting, and when dawn breaks and all that stuff. Some people reorchestrate that bit a little bit to make it more cataclysmic, but we'll get to that. You'll listen to them and you'll hear all the differences themselves. So where do we begin? Well, let's see. Stokey and the Philadelphia Orchestra. Yes, Stokowski doing the Danse macabre, the bacchanal from Samson to Delilah. This is on Biddulph. Stokowski conducts French music, but more than the actual album is the date, because you can find these things in various different things. Okay, so this was recorded in 1936. So, wow, yes, and it's 6 minutes and 50 seconds with Alexander Hilsberg, violin soloist, recorded on January 15th, 1936. Wow. Yeah, so that's, a decade after the advent of electrical recording. Stokowski's recordings always sounded really good. I mean, they did. And so this was like a specialty with him. So give it a shot and see what you think. It's definitely something worth considering. Here's a very interesting recording. This is with a conductor you probably haven't heard of, Louis Forestier, French conductor. This is part of the EMI, well now Warner, Les Rarissimes, the most rare recordings. And he did all the Saint-Saëns tone poems. They're all here on CD1, along with a pile of Chabrier and André Messager and Louis Aubert and the Suite Algérienne by Saint-Saëns and some Lalo and stuff. But he's got all 4 of the major Saint-Saëns tone poems here. And it's really, really cool. This one is a slower version. It's a little bit over 7 minutes. It's in mono. And it's with the, looks like the Concert Cologne Orchestra. One of those really nice, old, genuine, authentic French bands. Let's see who's doing it. Yes. Yeah. It's the Orchestre de l'Association des Concerts Cologne. That's what it is. And boy, oh boy, you get all the Saint-Saëns tone poems, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you'll be able to find this, but I wanted to mention it because it's certainly the earliest recording of this stuff. And it sounds fine. It was like 1952 to 58 is when these things were made. And Forestier was a vintage French conductor guy. So that's worth considering. Then we've got good old Arturo Toscanini. This is a great disc. You got the Ravel, Daphnis and Chloe Suite No. 2, Franck Sichet et Eros, Dukas, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Danse macabre, some Berlioz overtures and things, and the Thomas Mignon overture. This is a really interesting Danse macabre. It really is because, you know, it's even slower than Forestier's, 7.5 minutes. And the thing about it is that it begins slowly, and very deliberately. The clock striking midnight is, you know, tung, 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 tung. At the very beginning, it really full of programmatic potential and color, and it gets faster as it goes. So Toscanini whips it up into a real fury at the climax. He's really hauling butt by the time you get to the big climax at the end. It's really a splendidly conceived and thoughtful interpretation of a work that most people just toss off. But that's typical of Toscanini. You know, I mean, he always invested even small things with the extraordinary care and sometimes insight. And this is just great. This, by the way, I mean, it's contemporary with him because he was born in the 1860s, 1868 or something like that. And you know, Saint-Saëns wrote this thing around then. And it's fascinating. I mean, he had a real feel for that music. So that's definitely worth considering, as is Paul Paret. Now, Paul Paret's version of this sucker, this is, by the way, another wonderful just Dances of Death. You get Florent Schmidt's The Tragedy of Salome here, which was a real novelty when this thing was recorded in 1959 and 58. Wow, really incredible. The Danse is a little zippier, but not unusually fast. And because it's Mercury Living Presence and because it's Paul Paret, it's preternaturally clear sonically. I mean, you really can listen down into the texture. It's a dry recording, as most of those Mercuries were. But wow, it's vivid. It's really vivid in your face type thing. But a rather laid back performance nonetheless, even though it's not as slow as some of these other ones. Kind of curious, interesting. I found it very, very interesting, but fun because of, you know, all the color that you hear in the recording. Now, if you just want to have a spontaneous Danse macabre event, there's always Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic. It was lots of fun. You know, everybody used to record these pieces. Everybody. I mean, without exception. Everybody did them. And it was marvelous. And nowadays, who does this stuff? It's such a pity that we don't get to hear these things as regularly as we used to. Certainly on disc. I mean, they were fillers. The Danse macabre was a filler for anything French. It's like you needed an extra 5 or 6 minutes, you know, to fill out the disc, stuff on the Danse macabre. But Bernstein also conducted these light, frothy things as if his life depended on it. And it's a wonderfully exciting version. It's lots of fun. And so is this one, surprisingly. This is Daniel Barenboim with the Orchestre de Paris. Now, he made a whole bunch of recordings of French music with the Orchestre de Paris. It was not his fach. Let's face it, I mean, his Berlioz was awful, and, you know, some of these other things. But this is pretty good. First of all, his Saint-Saëns organ symphony, which is with Chicago, is absolutely stupendous. And the backing out from Samson and Delilah is quite good. And you get the prelude to The Flood, the oratorio. And finally, the Danse macabre, 6 minutes and 51 seconds of fun and frolic. A beautiful performance. It's colorful and it's propulsive and it's well recorded. And it's a joy. So that's a good one, too. Now, this was sort of our standard référence for a long time, actually, because it was on this disc with Charles Dutoit and the Royal Phil doing all the tone poems. And they were really hard to find. I mean, the Forestier, forget it. I mean, that was out of print within minutes, and it was in mono. There's one other recording, pardon me, that competed with this one. And we'll get to that one in a second. But these are very, very well done by Dutoit. This is before he was at Montreal. He was sort of an up-and-comer, and he was popping up all over the place. Remember, he did that Stravinsky Petrushka, what was it, Tchaikovsky violin concerto with Argerich, because he was married to her for a while. Let us not forget. But these Saint-Saëns tone poems are really well done. The Phaeton is probably one of the best ones out there still. You know, Phaeton is waiting for its great recording. For some reason, nobody gets the lightning bolt right, you know, which is like a roll on 4 timpani with bass drum cymbals and a tam-tam, and it's supposed to be a cataclysm, and it usually just sounds like da-da-da-da, stuff. It's ridiculous. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Danse macabre. This is a good, straightforward, clean, musical version. And so that's, you know, it's just fine for what it is. 6 minutes and 56 seconds. They're all in that area. And if they go outside of that range, usually something interesting is happening, as it does with Toscanini. So there you go. There's Dutoit. And here's the other one that you could sometimes get your hands on. It's all in Japanese, you see in the back. It's the Japanese EMI, but it's Pierre Dervaux with the Orchestre de Paris doing the 4 tone poems. On EMI. I had both of these, and I enjoyed both. This also has a very good Phaeton, by the way. Does it have a date? Oh, I always, I forget it. Why do I bother? Oh, here it is. 1972. October 1972, compared to 1979 for Dutoit. So there you go. Because this is the one I had first. So I got them in the right order. Oh, that's nice. I was only 11 when this was recorded, but that's okay. These are fine performances. Dervaux is a wonderful conductor of this music, and so that's definitely worth having. How long does he take over? They go to 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Quickie, one of the quicker ones, and very, very French. But now we get to, I think, the most distinctive ones, the ones that I think really you should hear. And one of these, well, 2 of them actually, are doubles. Doubles, you get 2 for the price of 1. Silvestri, yay! It's in the Silvestri box twice, once with Bournemouth and once with the Paris Conservatory Orchestra in mono, I believe. I mean, I think that's what it is. And I'm not going to get into the weeds, but the interesting thing about these is that they're very, very different interpretations. There's a minute difference in timing between them, Bournemouth being much quicker. The later one is much quicker than the earlier one, and you should really, really compare them. I mean, because Silvestri is just such a genius. It's even in small things. I mean, it's just wonderfully interesting and lively and characterful, and they both are, but in very, very different ways. So this is Warner in the big Silvestri box. I mean, I wish you could get them separately, but you're not going to get any of these separately unless you can download them, because they're all fillers for other things. So Silvestri is definitely somebody to think about. Also, Martinon, who did it twice. This is his errata recording. This is the later of the 2. And it's with the, who is it with here? It's with the, what you call it? The Orchestre Nationale de l'ORTF. The Orchestre Radio Diffusion et Télévision Français, or whatever the hell it is. Coupled with the Marie-Claire Alain Organ Symphony. It's a wonderful disc. And Martinon is great in this stuff. I mean, he brings a composer's ear to everything he does, with clean textures and transparency and excitement, and rhythm and all the good qualities. So this is on Erato, and it's in that big Erato box, of all the French music that Martinon did. But he also did it earlier for Decca. And this is the fun one with the Hyper Divertissement, Bizet, Jeux d'Enfant, Massenet, Le Cid ballet music. This is with the Paris Conservatory Orchestra and the Israel Philharmonic. But the Paris Conservatory stuff is what really concerns us here, and that's the Danse macabre. The Massenet is with the Israel Phil. Everything else, because that was added, to fill up the CD. But originally it was without the Massenet. It was all with the Paris Conservatory Orchestra. And you get also Le Rouet d'Omphale, and let's see, yes, the Bizet and the Danse macabre and the Hyper Divertissement. This is fantastic. This is just marvelous. It's the Paris Conservatory Orchestra, which you absolutely want to hear in anything French if you still can, because there is that amazing, authentic French sound that is now gone forever. Fascinating to me, actually, that people like François-Xavier Roth and Les Siècles claim that they're playing all this stuff on period instruments, blah, 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 but we've got the Paris Conservatory Orchestra, and they don't sound anything like Les Siècles. No, they don't. So there you go. It's absolutely marvelous. So this is one of the great ones. This is one of the ones that's like, you pull it out when you want to hear the Danse macabre. It's just tremendous. However, there is a performance which, if you've seen this channel, you know which one it is. I'm sorry, but it hasn't changed. That for lusciousness of strings, detail of all the subtleties of orchestral timbre, all the things that make it macabre, but at the same time, just overwhelmingly colorful and beautiful and brilliant. Ormandy in Philly. There it is. This is in the first Ormandy stereo box. It was recorded in 1959. And it's in wonderful sound. My goodness, it sounds fabulous. This is the Essential Classics collection of little Saint-Saëns snigglies. You got the Bacchanal, which is also amazing. It's the one to get for that. From Samson and Delilah, the Marche Militaire Française from the Suite Algérienne. The Carnival of the Animals has nothing to do with Ormandy. They stuffed it on. It's, I think, Entremont. And yes, it's the Philippe Entremont Gabi Casadessus recording of the chamber version, and the organ symphony, which is Ormandy's best shot at that piece also. This is a wonderful disc. But the Danse macabre, oh my, when those violins come in with the big tune, da 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 da, it's just this wall of sound just hits you, and it's really, really special. I mean, after that, you just your brain shuts down, and you just become a damp sponge of tactile information. I mean, it's just, it's incredible. Absolutely phenomenal. So if you just want to get one, and you're getting your Ormandy boxes anyway, you've already got it, go listen to it. Just go haul it out and listen to it. Oh, you're going to love it. And, if you don't have the Ormandy boxes, you can probably find it singly or download it without too much difficulty. He re-recorded this. He did all these things multiple times. But get the Sony one. Columbia, Sony. This is the one. It is extraordinary. It is all the best of what Philly could do. So we began with Stokowski and the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we end with Ormandy and the Philadelphia Orchestra. They own the Danse macabre. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.